And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
RCPA chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, roll, Atlantis.
Water towers fly! Yes!
Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside FD off. Bring in FD off. Off. It's orange! 145!
Oh my god! Oh my god!
Decollage.
Look at this!
Put that in the big bag, Eagle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
The methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You dead? Sure. We don't need any more of these.
Good evening. You are taking a live look right now at Space Launch Complex 40 at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida, where SpaceX is getting ready to static fire Falcon 9 ahead of the upcoming Crew-9 mission to the International Space Station. This mission marking the first time that Crew will ever launch from Slick 40. I am Sawyer Rosenstein. I am your host for this static fire stream, and I see all of the 5x5s in chats, meaning you can hear me, and I appreciate that, and I'm sure you appreciate that it won't just be me that you'll be hearing this whole time. I am also joined by Alex. How's it going, Alex?
I'm doing fantastic, and I'm having flashbacks. And I'm having flashbacks because we are having a first crew launch from a launch pad with 2 people on board the spacecraft, and it's being delayed because of weather reasons. So it's bringing me back, memories back from Demo 2.
Oh my gosh, don't remind me of that. I thought you were going to bring up the fact that it's another launch that's also supposed to bring back Butch and Sunny, but...
Yeah, we'll talk about that later, and when we get to the launch coverage as well.
Yeah, and also joining us providing the views is D. How's it going, D?
It is going really well. Always great to be out here, and so excited for Crew-9, and so getting to hopefully watch a static fire tonight on a beautiful, clear, and slightly breezy night. I can't think of anywhere I would rather be.
Well, we're glad to have you here, and glad to have everybody that's watching here as well. Reminder, if you have a question, you can tag us at NASASpaceflight. We'll do our best to answer as many of those questions as we can. And I know one of the big questions is the weather, where, as you can see, currently 28 degrees Celsius, about 82 Fahrenheit, light winds, only 75% humidity. Thank you for putting up the weather there, Mr. Kevin Michael Reed, who, the voice of God, is producing today's stream. But we have some very tropical weather coming, and in case those of you are unaware, the mission has already delayed. It was supposed to be coming up Friday. It is now no earlier than Saturday, the 28th. So, Dean, what's the deal with the hurricane status right now at the Cape?
I believe the Kennedy moved into a Hurricane 4 yesterday. It's not, there aren't too many crazy preps happening right now. The hurricane is on the west side of the state, expected to hit more of the Tallahassee area or the Perry area, up around the Big Bend. So we aren't expecting any sort of really major impacts here, but there are preparations taking place. Driving out here today, I did see sandbags on pallets around center. So I'm sure that the employees here want to make sure that their homes are good and prepared for any potential impacts we could have if the hurricane does move more east and there is more severe weather coming to the Space Coast.
And for those unaware, Hurricane is hurricane condition, and Hurricane 4 means that 72 hours prior to potential of 50-knot sustained winds, it's basically the initial notifications and preparations, organizing checklists, ensuring all vehicles are fully fueled, and confirming any ride-out teams that will be there through the storm. The one to look out for is when it gets to Huracan 1. That would be a lot closer.
Yeah, in
Now,
fact,
Go ahead.
I was just going to add to that in fact, after this static fire is complete, they're going to be rolling back the rocket to the hangar precisely to protect it from the storm.
Exactly. And Alex, this isn't the first time that this rocket's been out at Pad 40, is it?
Yeah, so this booster actually flew previously. It is a flight-proven booster. It flew the Starlink Group 10-5 mission all the way back in, I think it was August 20th. And yeah, that was here from Sleek 40.
There you go. Yep, making its second flight. This one, though, will not be a drone ship landing. This is a landing zone landing over at LZ-1, just a couple miles down the road, also at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. Yep. And what about our capsule?
Yeah, so as you see there, this is the fourth flight of capsule 212, which will be Freedom. This is the capsule called Freedom. And it previously flew the Crew-4 in Axiom 2 and Axiom 3 missions. And, you know, once it returns from the ISS, hopefully all the way in February, then it'll be recovered by either Megan or Shannon, depending on where it splashes down. That's sort of the whole, you know, thing of the vehicle. If you look at the second stage, though, even though it's new, it's always new for Falcon 9, you can see the two NASA logos, the worm and meatball logos. Even though it's a bit further away than usual, than, you know, when it's at 39A, it still has those logos.
And it just so happened, D, you saw it pass by while we were on the flame trench, I think, right?
I sure did. I had to stop DOS and say, hey, quick, everyone, turn the cameras to here, because I saw the second stage rolling towards Hangar X, and I didn't have a good camera to get fantastic photos of it or anything, but I did get some cell phone shots that do clearly show the worm and the meatball on there. And I have to say, part of me really wishes we still got NASA logos on first stages. I understand why SpaceX doesn't do that anymore, but it would be cool.
I mean, yeah, it would. And thanks for reminding us about B1058.
I didn't say the number.
Oh boy, and here comes all of the comments. I see a lot of Team Meatball, so I'm already impressed. I see some Team Worm in there, but D, I gotta ask, which are you?
You're gonna put me on the spot like that?
Of course I am.
I love both of them, and that's the cheap answer. I might have to say I might have to say the worm, but also I have a really special fondness for the meatball and some of the fun iterations of the meatball.
Okay, that was more of an Alex type non-answer. Speaking of Alex, what about you?
I don't care. They can fly whatever logos they want to. I'm not partisan in that. I don't really care about each logos, to be fair.
Wow, I am surrounded by indecision.
It should be like in Formula 1 cars that they have like a bunch of like all of the logos that they can fit on the exterior. All of them are there. So similar thing with Falcon 9. They should just put stickers everywhere. Maybe that'll reduce the launch cost by having, sponsors on the rocket.
Yeah, a la Soyuz. Which, by the way, Team Meatball all the way. And I know something that you could say that means you can't fire back at me, because we are coming up on what should be the T-minus 20-minute, 20-second vent, aka the best vent, if all is currently going according to plan. And it appears there it is. Yes, we have that 20-minute vent. Alex, can you remind us what that's for?
Yeah, that is just essentially to prepare the lines that load liquid oxygen onto the second stage. So right now we are, just like on a launch day, we are not going to see a launch today, knock on wood, because it's not a launch. But they need to rehearse the same things that they do for a launch. Remember another rocket earlier this week that did something similar of rehearsing launch procedures? Well, similar thing happens today with Falcon 9. You see there that T-minus 20-minute vent. It is essentially to be able to prepare for that liquid oxygen load. It cools down the lines to the second stage. And speaking of rehearsals, earlier today, the crew underwent a dry dress rehearsal. So the scene that we're seeing today is a static fire test, which includes what is normally called a wet dress rehearsal, essentially loading the rocket with propellants and going through the countdown. But it also includes the firing of the engines while holding down the rocket. We expect that static fire to be maybe like on the order of 5 to 7 seconds or something like that. But then you can see those pictures of both Nick Hague and Alexander Gorbunov. Gorbunov? I don't... Sorry for Gorbunov. There we go. Sorry for butchering his name. I always forget. But yeah, there you can see both being, just rehearsing how they will load onto the rocket, how they will do the whole procedure of going out, strapping themselves into the capsule, and all that jazz. And so that'll be interesting to see when, the actual launch comes around, because it's weird seeing the other two seats empty. Although we are used to, having seen 4 people always on this Dragon capsule since essentially Demo 2. Now it's a bit weird to see those empty.
It really is, especially considering that Alexander is a mission specialist sitting in the pilot seat there in that image. Which, in case you're wondering about what training do Roscosmos cosmonauts go through when they're flying aboard a Crew Dragon mission, you should check out NASASpaceflight.com, where I actually got to interview Gorbanov, and through a translator got a really cool story out of it. So NASASpaceflight.com if you're not.
Yeah.
I think I just made Chris be happy with the website plug.
To be very clear here, that was earlier. Right now, there are no people on board Dragon. Just to be clear. They loaded onto the vehicle, they strapped themselves, and then they simulated sort of like an abort during the countdown procedures. And then they exited the vehicle, went back to their quarters and everything. And then, SpaceX proceeded into this static fire test campaign. So, just to be clear here, there are no people on board.
Yeah, that is a very good point to mention. Thank you for bringing that up. And you can even see the crew arm is also out of the way there too.
Exactly, and just because I'm reading chat. Hi, chat. I also saw another person saying, "Oh, maybe this is because of the issues with the second stage recently." It has nothing to do with that. It's actually like every single crew mission that they have done, they've always done a static fire test, and I'm mostly sure that it's just down to extra safety, making sure that the rocket is ready, and there's no last minute oopsies on launch day. They have skipped static fires on other missions though, like on most cargo Dragon missions, for example. On even military missions, they have also skipped static fire tests. But crew missions are still the exception, where they still are doing static fires for every single crew mission.
Yeah, it's something we don't see often, but we definitely do see more of with crew flights, at least. Also, shout out to Ninja Decimator. Pew, pew, pew. Saying hashtag Team Meatworm. I just like rockets. Don't care about the logo. Don't blame you. Here's a good question. A Carson Phillips wants to know, is Dragon abort active? So if something happens, Dragon be safe. Do we know if that's a thing? Alex, I'll throw that one to you.
Sorry, talking while muted. It used to be at one point. I remember clearly back in the day, there will be one of the recovery vessels like right offshore from the launch pad from LC-39A when they were doing this from there. And I don't know if they keep... I've just opened marine traffic just to see if there's any of those boats out there. I don't see any of them. But frankly, it's also like very close. It's like Port Canaveral is just essentially less than 30 minutes of sailing time, I guess, to get to the waters near Slick 40. So if something happened, I'm mostly sure. Because the whole reason we know that must have been the case is precisely because the recovery vessel will position itself outside of the launch pad for a static fire. And it's like, why would it do that, right? Like, it wouldn't make sense to have that, because it doesn't do that for a launch. It does position itself somewhat distant, but not near the launch pad. But you will only do that if you had the launch escape system active when it is on the launch pad and you don't intend to launch it. You know what I mean, right? It will do a pad abort essentially, if it were to do that. So that's how we guess that. We have no confirmation though, and
Yeah.
right now I'm not seeing anything on marine traffic in terms of the vessels being out there. You can also check that out on Space Coast Live with Fleet Cam, and I'm seeing the 2 drone ships, but I'm not seeing the Dragon recovery vessels. I believe one of them must have left earlier, if I'm not mistaken. To go to
Doug did leave earlier, yes.
yeah, that's the ferry recovery vessel, but one of them, I don't remember which one, if Shannon or Megan, went to the Gulf of Mexico and then turned around because of the hurricane coming in and everything. But yeah, I'm looking here through marine traffic and I don't see any of the 2 recovery vessels, Dragon recovery vessels.
Yeah. By the way, Andrew, yes, I did post the link 4 times intentionally because I have a little reg next to my name, so I can link spam, so I do. Sorry, had to there. Here's one, and I'll throw this one to you, D. Cody is asking, any word of additional consumables going up or replacement spare suits, since there might be extra mass thresholds with 2 less crew members? Is there anything that we know that's going up on Crew-9 besides the 2 crew?
Off the top of my head, I'm not super certain. So we have one suit that will be being brought up, one additional, I should say, suit that is being brought up this mission. Additionally, they will have cargo in the other seats to match the weight necessary, like the weight distribution. As far as specific like science experiments and cargo, I'm not super familiar with all of that, unfortunately.
That's right. That was the main thing. Was I think just is there sort of a ballast to represent the crew and the importance of bringing up that second SpaceX spacesuit. Now we are about 12 minutes away, and a reminder: this is just a static fire test where they will fire out the engines, and if all goes according to plan, not release any hold down clamps. It should stay to the ground. This ahead of the Crew-9 mission, which is now currently scheduled to launch no earlier than this upcoming Saturday, September 28th. It is originally delayed because of the incoming storm that is expected to hit the Gulf of Mexico. Which, by the way, D, why is the weather in the Gulf of Mexico important for a crew mission?
Well, there are a number of different reasons. The big thing is that hurricanes have a large area of clouds. It'll upset the sea, and looking like recovery weather the whole way up along the coast is important. And also there is the human employee factor. If any employees should be home and not actively prepping for a launch, like they're not going to want to have employees out at work when they should be prepping for a hurricane.
Yeah, all very significant. And of course, abort weather on the Gulf and all the way up, essentially the northeastern seaboard, quite important, as that is where they have their different abort zones on the way up. Jay, getting an item from shop.nasaspaceflight.com, saying thanks for all the great coverage. Hey, getting the Thrust collection with the Raptor shirt. Nice. The Thrust collection is so cool with Raptor, RS-25, BE-4, and of course the Merlins, which we'll hopefully see fire up tonight. So get your favorite engine and rep it. Plus, now available some Flight 5 stuff too.
I must say also though, while in 2 days we're expecting some really bad weather, it's absolutely gorgeous tonight. There are just a couple clouds in the sky, but it is a really clear night to see a lot of stars out here.
It's the calm before the storm, isn't it?
It sure is.
All right, Let's see here. We also have Nathaniel Sullivan becoming a launch director member, one of the highest levels of support here at NSF. Thank you so much for doing that. Of course, you get all of the awesome photos and things that get uploaded to YouTube. Usually get about 5 of them a day of some cool stuff going on, either Cape Side, Starbase, especially potential upcoming KSE flyover photos. Also, access to Discord, which is for Capcom and above, and you get your name at the end of NSF Live, as well as the Flame Trench. Let's see. I've got one from Ken here. Alex, what indicators do you look for to indicate a static fire T0?
Oh yeah, that's it's actually easier on Falcon 9 because a lot of the things are down even to the second, and we know them because we've seen. Well, what's this, like 360 something, 307? Hang on, let me look up my own stats. This will be whenever it launches. It will be the 377th orbital launch of Falcon 9. So there's a lot of data there, right? To get a handle on what are the things that happen prior to a launch. For a crew launch, this is very interesting because you've got also the crew access arm, and it retracts about T-minus 45 to T-minus 40 minutes, usually T-minus 43. And today, for example, it retracted around that same time. And so we just guessed that it was going to be essentially at 10:05 p.m. Eastern, which will be, if you think about it, the launch, when is it supposed to be again? Well, it was supposed to be at 2:05 p.m. Eastern, remember, for Thursday, but now it's delayed. And so that's one of the things that we used to guess these things. When it looks close to the launch date, to the launch time, we normally guess that. For crew missions, at the very least, they try to hit something very similar to the launch time. Even though it's not 2 p.m., of course, it's close to 10 p.m. But, it has that 05 on it, which kind of makes sense. Because the dry dress also had, the 05 as well on all of that. Anyways, just going to the more specific things, the T-minus 20 minute event confirms to us that they are indeed at T-minus 20 minutes. They did that T-minus 20 minute event came up right on the dot when we expected to for that 10:05 p.m. Eastern static fire test. So definitely, a bunch of these little things. The fueling, for example, the first signs of fueling, we also see frost appearing around T-minus 33, 32 minutes. We also saw that as well right before we went live. We were already seeing some of the frost, so that's when we went ahead and went live, because we already confirmed that, hey, there's frost on the vehicle, right? It's definitely getting fueled. So those are sort of the usual things that we get to see when when we try to guess when the T0 is going to be. Most of the time, though, we don't need it because Falcon 9, they have a lot more information out there for those.
Exactly. We are now under the T-minus 7 minute mark based off of that T-minus 20 minute event. D, why is that so important? What do they do at T-minus 7 minutes?
I believe that we are going into the start of engine chill down.
Exactly. Conditioning the engines for the heat they are about to experience by running some of the cool propellants through it. We have a member message from Abacus Man, 18 months as a Capcom member. Thank you for that. With a really good question saying, in the past, crew missions landed on drone ships, looking at nextspaceflight.com. It seems like they're doing RTLS landings recently. Alex, is this due to extra performance they've managed to get out of the booster?
Yeah, what they essentially have done is they figured out that by tweaking the trajectory both on launch and on the booster reentry, they could get a return to launch site for crew missions and also for cargo missions as well. They've also done that for CRS missions. In fact, right before they switched to doing RTLS with Dragon missions, they did one cargo mission, I believe it was CRS 28, where we tend to say, oh, they need the full performance most of the time, and so that's why they have the full nozzle. And we expect this mission to not have a stubby nozzle. However,
Uh-oh.
that CRS mission, CRS-28, did have a stubby nozzle, and the whole reason was because it did not have any optimization of the performance, so they could not go back to land. But if you land on a drone ship, it had plenty of performance. So it actually landed on, essentially the booster landed on a drone ship, and the second stage had a stubby nozzle. So it had that performance, right smack in the middle of not being able to do RTLS, but having too much performance to even need a full nozzle for a drone ship landing. So it was fun. However, I only expect that to be the only one, the first and only Dragon mission with that. Now that they're doing the RTLS. Another thing that they do, and we'll see that hopefully this Saturday, is that when they return the boosters on those types of profiles, the re-entry burn is just with one engine instead of 3 engines. And they actually don't slow down too much because it's only 1 instead of 3. And it seems like it's just done just to protect the booster through re-entry, and it's not really just to slow down. The booster actually comes down very slow on RTLS, so that's perhaps why they don't need to use all 3 engines, and that means they can reserve some of the propellant because you're using essentially a third of the amount of engines, right? So you're reserving a lot of propellant for the landing burn. But also, the landing burn is more efficient because they do a 1-3-1 landing burn, where they ignite the center engine, then the 2 outer engines ignite for a brief moment, just like 4 or 5 seconds, to slam on the brakes. And when they do this, the landing burn is also done closer to the ground. So what they do is essentially just slow down faster, and that's more efficient. Actually, they shut down those 2 outer engines and just finish the landing burn on the center engine.
Exactly. As we hit now the T-minus 3-minute mark at this point, the strongback is retracted 1.8 degrees away from the rocket. Again, we don't expect this to throw all the way back since it's not launching, correct?
Yeah, the strongback should be retracting, but it will not throw back. Exactly. Yeah.
Right. That's what we're hoping for here, is a good static fire. D, these are usually pretty quick though, right? About how long is the static fire itself? D may be getting some cameras ready, so I'll throw that over to you then, Alex.
Can you repeat it, please? I'm literally right now talking in the back channel. Sorry.
Oh no, I was saying that the static fires themselves, about how long do they expect for it?
Oh yeah, sure. It kind of depends a bit on what they are actually looking for, but the maximum that they have lasted in the past is like 10 to 12 seconds. I expect this to be in the order of 5 to 7. That's at least what I think.
You keep an eye out for that. We're also hoping to get audio, but considering that it is about 10-ish second burn, most will say, 10 to 12 seconds, and depending on how the wind is going and the fact that it's not reverberating as much off the ground since it's not lifting off, we will do our best to get as much good sound as we can.
Yeah. This is one of the things that we usually say for static fire streams, that it's not Starship, right? Starship has all of the things going everywhere and everything. For this, for example, you have the flame trench. The exit of the flame trench is facing away from our cameras, so the sound is going away. So we'll try to listen in for the static fire sounds, but we'll see.
Right. You could see that venting there indicating all the fuel load complete with the second stage load ending with the line purge. That means that at this point now, at T-minus 1 minute, the vehicle should basically be controlling itself at this point as Falcon 9 enters startup, with the onboard computers taking over, the tanks pressurized to flight levels. It's also when a launch director would give go for launch would be at T-minus 45 seconds. We'll see if they are go for the test. And I know at this moment D is go to prepare our cameras to be able to see as much of the flame as we can for you. So if you see a little shake and drop, that's what that's for. It's for you. Coming up now, 30 seconds until static fire.
There's the nature sounds.
Yep, that is the microphone from where D is set up a few miles away. 15 seconds. Keep an eye out at the base of Falcon 9 for that ignition and the static fire. Again, not a liftoff, but a static fire in about 3 seconds from now. Ignition. Sounded like a very light rumble there. Dee, were you able to hear anything from that?
I gotta be honest, I really didn't hear much of anything. I did have my headphones on still, but I really didn't hear much of anything. I'm just watching the cloud sort of rise behind the launch pad now. Really nice to see these static fires go.
That was very
Yeah.
scenic. Look at that.
Oh, it's gorgeous looking. And the important thing is the rocket's still there. How'd that look to you, Alex?
It looked great. I mean, I think it fired something like 7 to 10 seconds, which was sort of like a bit of the higher end of what I expected. But, sometimes the reason why I expected what I expected is because when they don't need as much data, they just do like 3.5 seconds, which is essentially the whole process of starting up the engines and let them run at 100% for like the first second of the flight, without actually releasing the launch comps, of course. But when they need a bit more data, they just run the engines for longer, for a few more seconds, usually to tower clear or something like that, which is 7-10 seconds into flight. So that's why I was saying that. If I may go a bit even back to Falcon Heavy, when they did Falcon Heavy static fire the first time, they
Sure.
ran that to 12 minutes. Not 12 minutes, 12 seconds, excuse me. Because that was like, the moment also when the throttle down happens on the center core. So like it makes sense, these are not things that let's just run it, I don't know, 5 seconds, right? like there's no some random engineer coming up to the launch director and be like, let's program it, I don't know, 5 seconds, 6, right? They have a reason why they want the static fire to be as long as they want it to be. By the way, I just saw an epic shot before, like right as I was talking, of the depress vent of Falcon 9. We see it with Starship, but Falcon 9 also does a depress vent.
Yeah. Again, beautiful. It's nice to see when there's not a crew on board and when you're not expecting a launch. When it's a scrub, it's a whole different story.
Oh yeah.
But everything there appearing good, and if all looked good and the weather holds out, as of right now, the launch date for Crew-9 is currently scheduled for this coming Saturday, September 28th, I believe around 1:17 p.m. Eastern Time, if I recall correctly.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta ask D, are you getting hyped now for Crew-9?
I was really hyped on Saturday, seeing the crew arrive, and the hype will continue to build, but knowing that there is a hurricane between this static fire and the launch, it's not an extreme level of hype just quite yet for me.
Yeah, I get that. We'll all want to make sure the weather clears, and of course, anyone that's in the path of the storm, please, please, please be safe. We had some support coming in from Connor, who said Megan started to go around the west coast of Florida, but came back towards Fort Lauderdale. Shannon has now started to make the trip around as well, so not sure which will be on which coast. And Alex, I don't think we know officially yet either, do we?
We'll probably have to wait for that storm to pass to be able to see which one is going. But it's very likely that Megan was going to be the one going to the west coast of Florida. And probably what happened is that Shannon also got away from the storm. Like it probably went to another more nicer port for when the storm comes around. Because I think Port Canaveral is supposed to close this Wednesday, if I remember correctly. So right around a few hours from now, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much. Current
Yeah.
time 10:10 p.m. Eastern, by the way. Also, Matrix getting caught watching this at their anniversary dinner. Hi, Matrix's wife, and please pay attention to your wife more than us. In case you're wondering, that is the latest from NOAA. Taking a look at the tropical outlook, obviously you see Helene there in the bottom left. That is expected to make landfall somewhere near the Big Bend area of Florida, which, in case you don't know, Florida area, it's basically broken up into different locations. The Big Bend is where it literally bends almost like an elbow there. That's around the area of Tallahassee. You've got Wakulla County, Franklin County, even towards Suwannee County on the edge of it there. Well, we'll keep an eye on that. And by the way, in case you're wondering, isn't there another launch tonight? You're right, there is. There is one out of Vandenberg Space Force Base. Yeah, it may not be the best coast, but there is still a launch from it. Liftoff currently scheduled for 12:01 a.m. Eastern Time, so just under 2 hours from now. Are we going to be live streaming that? Spoiler. Yes. Yes, we are. If you are a member, this is a member exclusive perk. You will get to join us for that upcoming launch, and also get to meet some new people in there too. So make sure.
Type in it. You can appear on the stream too.
There you go. Yeah.
Chat is there.
So if you're a member, make sure to join, because we absolutely want as many people as possible joining in, getting to see a rocket launch. I also have to thank everyone that was here. D, thank you for rolling out and rolling the cameras.
Happy to be here.
And thank you as well, Alex, for joining.
It's always a pleasure. And now I have to go and write a script. You'll see soon which video is about.
I wonder if it involves the coast that we are currently looking at right now, potentially from the air.
It involves aviation. Put it that way.
We'll see. You'll have to keep an eye out to see if maybe we overfly a certain space center named Kennedy. Apparently, I'm being told to thank myself, so thank me for existing. You're welcome, Sawyer. And then thank Kevin Michael Reed for pushing the buttons, pulling the levers, and thank you, Ship 26, for being the worst. He told me to thank Ship 26, so I had to thank it for something. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Hopefully, we'll see members coming up later tonight, and we will see everybody for Crew-9 hopefully this weekend. Have a good one.
You're so wrong, Sawyer. You're so wrong. Okay? I'm rolling the intro.
And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be nominal.
RCPA chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, Atlantis.
Water towers fly! Yes! Tango down to nominal.
Flight downside of speed off. Bring in SPD off. Off. It's orange! 145!
Oh my god!
Decollage.
Put that in the big bag, Eagle.
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
The methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?